one.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Paragon Competitive League North American Division on this wonderful weekend here. It is March 11th. The year is 2017. I'm Shane Lynch, and joining me is the wonderful, compassionate, and very insightful Pythian. Pythian, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing quite well, and after that intro, I'm feeling some happy thoughts for you, Shane. How are you doing, by the
Oh,
way?
I'm doing great. The weather's beautiful, and here in Florida, I have the windows open. I'm looking at a wonderful body of water just outside my window. I'm about to shoutcast Paragon. I'm about to shoutcast the Paragon Competitive League. All is well here, my man. Very excited to get into it. So the first two teams we're going to be casting here, the qualifier round, as we like to call it, has ended. We're now into the group stage. It's going to be Arctic Wolves, or Woofs, as some of you like to say, versus Bronze Army. Bronze Army, a team we saw last time around, who actually performed pretty well. I believe they were able to get into the almost were able to get into the semifinals, but we came up a little bit short. But Arctic Wolves is a very well-known team, Pith. They've been around for a very long time. Specifically, the core of Phasma, Crazy Fool, and Cosby's been sort of into that roster sporadically since they've been around. But now they've brought on board Suki, who's always been known as one of the better Ranger players in Paragon, dating all the way back to last year. So I'm very excited to see how they perform with this new Ranger player. We're just going to have to see how these games go and what goes down in the draft.
For sure, and with that might actually come a couple of position changes. Since Survivor is still on the team, he's one of the better Rangers in the game. So we'll see if any of the roles start to switch around for Arctic Wolves as well. But with that being said, we do have a draft here, so why don't we see what these guys are picking up?
Let's do it, man. As we get right into it, look at those wonderful logos. That's so good. So obviously, the most recent patch. Without we have to bring that up. All right. The biggest thing, of course, the addition of Shinbi, but more specifically, I think what's going to affect the competitive scene more than anything else is the Lieutenant Bellica buffs. We already were seeing Bellica fairly consistency prior to her getting a buff, and now that I think she is even stronger than she was before, I believe we will be seeing her, maybe not the most highly contested hero, but definitely she'll be a priority pick for some teams. But not what's going on right here, Pith. We do see the bans coming out from both these teams are going to be the Rampage and the Decker. I think that's pretty straightforward and unexpected at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to get those stuns out of the game, and if you don't take them out, you do open yourself up for a couple of picks there that can definitely screw up your lineup. And look at this from Bronze Army. They're actually going to pick up the Countess first, which is not something we see too much.
Yes, very, very interesting. I would expect Countess, unless scrims have just been going completely different than the way I've been seeing. We have been seeing Countess every now and then. Actually, last time we saw her was Bronze Army playing her. However, I really didn't know that she was of a high priority hero inside of the draft that they would first pick her. But obviously, Bronze Army, they have something very specific in mind. I feel like Countess is not one of those heroes that you can just willy-nilly pick. They definitely are showing their cards a little bit here. They're with this Countess pickup, but if they can execute this draft that they're looking to do and build a draft that will fit Countess's playstyle very well, whether she's played in that off lane or a different position. Normally we see her in that off lane. She's a very, very double-edged sword in the sense that she can snowball very, very well, or if she gets behind, she's very difficult to even be a presence in these fights. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this Countess pick for sure.
Yeah, it is also very strange that they decided to pick it up first, but I think that it was the Rampage and Decker bans that allowed Bronze Army to be able to do this. Usually, you're going to be looking for one of those with your first couple of picks. Also, perhaps the Steel not really looking so strong, so that's why we're seeing the Countess coming out first here. Arctic Wolves, with their next two picks, are going to have a Grux and a Sparrow for themselves.
Very interesting. Sparrow, I think, is there's no surprise. You mentioned Steel. That's another thing that the patch, I think, affected the meta quite a bit, is that Steel received significant nerfs to the point where I actually think that we're not going to see much of him. Excuse me. I don't think we're going to be seeing much of him at all. Maybe as a jungler, but I really don't think he is going to be able. He's not viable as a support. I don't think he's that good of an offlaner. You have much better options there. If we are going to see him, it will be in the jungle. But so far, that's simply not going to be the case. Grux and Sevarog are more than likely going to be filling that void. And obviously, Grux being picked up first here, that's for Arcticos putting a big priority there. And of course, there's the Bellica. As we mentioned, Pith, she's just with that increased range and the way her ultimate does a little bit more damage in the late game and the later stages of the mid game. she is a big, big threat to any caster.
Yeah, for sure. But also the quickness of her stun also makes it a lot easier to take people out of the fight. And of course, there's a lot more utility with the Void Bomb now. She was receiving a couple of picks before her buff, and then I guess Epic were like, we need to see this hero a little bit more. So we're gonna see Belica probably a lot in this event.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that's going to be the case here. The next pickups for the guys in Arctic Wolves, they're going to get their support on everyone's favorite musician, Narbash, and then Gadget is going to be their, what we have to assume will be their mid laner of choice. So no surprise there with Howitzer being picked up very, very early. Howitzer's more than likely the most contested we won't say the mid laner, we'll say the solo laner, just the way the meta has changed, and we'll touch on that a little bit here as
Sure.
we see how this laning phase goes down. But that'll definitely be their solo lane caster, will be that Gadget with obviously Sparrow and Narbash being attached at the hip there. So looking at the draft here for Bond's army, as far as supports go, Narbash has been taken away. I think that you're going to have to go with maybe a little bit of an unorthodox draft. I'm sorry, an unorthodox support, because the heroes that we normally think of support really have been either taken away. The only hard support left in the pool right now is Muriel. And I don't know if she's going to be fitting into this draft very well. So it'll be interesting to see what they elect to go with. I mean, they have the Belica. Belica absolutely is viable as a support, as well as Aurora's on the field too.
Yeah, we'll have to see. For Bronze Army, maybe we're actually going to get a Kwang support, but they have a couple of heroes here, and this is what I like about a draft. You have a lot of them, and with so many supports being off the board, you're kind of forced to guess which one of them is actually going to be in that position. We might even see a support Howie at some point, which, as weird as that may sound, would be interesting to see.
I've seen it. I've seen the support Howitzer. I've seen offlane Howitzer, which I think is actually uh, depending on the matchup, can actually go pretty well because he can be deceptively difficult to take down. But so they are going to get the Murdoch as the Murdoch and the Kwang, as you mentioned there. No surprise, I think Murdoch is pretty much the next best Ranger in the meta right now. He still, despite the fact that he received that damage nerf to his long arm of the law, it still gives him that threat of being able to, quote, double farm, both being in lane and using that ability to secure kills, giving him really big means of global presence. And also, it supplements the Countess ultimate as well. So if Countess gets an ultimate off, just any communication whatsoever, hey, I'm ulting this dude, ult him, and it just really builds into that big burst right now that Bronze Army has, because they have a massive amount of burst. What they do lack, though, is a big front line. They don't really have much of a front line. Arctic Wolves has the Grux. Narbash isn't necessarily a front line, but if he is, he wants to get in there to do damage. But already I feel like Bronze Army is going to have, it's going to be very, very either they're going to be doing really well or doing really poor. There's going to be no in between.
And do you think that we might actually see that coming into play at certain stages of the game? So would you say the Arctic Wolves are a little bit stronger at a certain stage than at other ones?
To be honest, man, I think the right now the late game for Bronze Army, I think, exceeds that of Arctic Wolves. Grux is very, very strong early game, and his role as far as damage dealer goes falls off significantly. The way you play that hero and the mindset you have, you go from a early gank jungle oriented hero to much more of a initiator and damage soaker later on. You don't build him pure damage just because he doesn't really have the ability to scale like a Sevarog would with his stacking or Rampage with his ultimate. So he's known for that early game and fallen off late game. Narbash is sort of in the same boat. He's really good at supplementing ganks in the early part of the match, but as the game goes on, with him being a support and the way that his health scales, he doesn't have much armor. His health doesn't scale very much, and obviously being that support, he's going to be very short on card experience to build any sort of tank ability, even if he's able to. And with his ultimate being you have to be around them. If this goes late stage, even if Arctic Wolves builds up a early game advantage, but they aren't able to capitalize on it, I definitely see Bronze Army just really being able to come back from a deficit if they're able to stabilize around that 30-minute mark, because the late game presence of all 5 of those heroes on Bronze Army are very, very potent.
All right. And the last pickup for Arctic Wolves is going to be, well, something that works pretty well with their team named the Aurora.
Yep.
Again, all that ice in there. So we got our lineup set here. A good amount of CC for Arctic Wolves, and Bronze Army, like you said, they do scale a little bit better into the late game.
Yep.
So, well, I guess we have our lineup set here. Do you have any predictions before we get right into it?
The early game of Arctic Wolves is extraordinarily threatening. I want to see timings around the Grux and Aurora. I want to see timings. I want to see green buff invasions. I'd imagine that Aurora is going to be in the off lane. Grux is going to be in the jungler. They are a very good duo. Either a Grux or Sevarog, they both complement each other very well. Aurora is going to be their primary means of initiation for the mid and the late game. You have to look at Bronze Army, how they do have a purity sensor on what I imagine is going to be a support Bellica. So if they're able to play around that supports that purity sensor that's going to be on Bellica, and around the fact that it's a support Bellica and not really a core Bellica, I think they really are going to be able to set themselves up really, really well in the mid game. But it's all about the early and mid game for Arctic Wolves, all about the late game for Bronze Army. And we're just going to have to see how this game goes. There's no other way to do it, my man. I'm ready to get into this. I'm so ready.
All right. Well, I think that we are all both ready to get into the game. So let's start up in 3, 2, 1, go.
We're in there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paragon Competitive League North American Division. I don't even know what number it is. 8? Something like that. We've been doing them for a while here. Let's introduce these teams. First off, just want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, who are joining us and who have been joining us. You are all so handsome and beautiful and amazing and intelligent. Now, on the blue side, we're going to have Arctic Wolves, Cosby on Grux, who's actually known for his Grux play, Crazy Fool on Aurora, Suki on Gadget, Heller, Survivor period on Sparrow, and Phasma on Narbash.
Yeah, as you said, interesting to see Suki playing the Gadget. We do have a little bit of a stack here from Bronze Army getting some words out. Miso Tired playing the Howitzer. Miso Sneaky on the Kwang. We've got Miso boosted. He's going to be playing a Murdoch this time around. Bronze is my favorite color. He's going to have the red Countess. And then finally, Miso Kamikaze is going to be handling the support Bellica for this match.
Of course, Kamikaze is a patron to my channel, so good to see him there. But we won't. It's too early in the broadcast for me to be shamelessly plugging myself. It's too early. So Suki has been known as for a Ranger player, but here he is on the mid role with Survivor being on that Sparrow though. So that leads me to believe a couple things. Either Suki has looked for a transition in the role, and maybe he's starting to look to be a little bit of a mid player. Or that may be some flexibility right there inside of this draft where maybe Suki's really good for his at Murdoch, and there's a little bit better on Survivor for the Sparrow. Miso Tired just taking a little bit of harassment damage, and it is going to be the early rotating Narbash, and I really want to see that. Actually, Suki took a little bit of damage there from the tower, but he's going to be okay. But let's break down these lanes here, Pith. It's not going to be a support carry in the mid lane. It's actually what we could say is a little bit more traditional. The support carries in their respective safe lane, and it's just going to be the mid laners going at it.
Yeah, for sure. I do like the early roams from Phasma as the support with the much more reliable stun here with a Thunk. You're able to put a huge amount of harass onto a couple of lanes. So he makes it over to right. Taking a look at how Phasma usually plays, he does have a little bit of trouble getting some levels, and this kind of playstyle is one of the reasons why he's roaming around very early. And the thing about Narbash is you don't necessarily have to have level 5 up so soon. As long as you can hit a good Thunk, that's really all your team needs in order to do well in the fight. So we'll be looking for some good ones from him, and also if these early rotations aren't going to hit at all.
Crazy Fool on the Aurora, taking a lot of harassment damage, has to be careful. Generally, I think Aurora is one of the safer offlaners in the game when it's the 1v2 matchup here, as we're seeing right now, just because she has so many ways to get out of harm's way. But nonetheless, has been taking a lot of harassment there. With one of the buffs that Bellica received was her Seismic Assault. Now is not insta-cast, but pretty damn close. And so she's much more threatening as a support. She really wasn't ever run as a support where we saw before. But just due to the fact that her stun is much more reliable and easier to land consistently, I think we're going to see Bellica support much more frequently. Now, of course, the way her ultimate now scales, with a support Bellica, you're not going to get as much value out of the damage of her Neural Disruptor throughout the course of the game. But I don't think that's a big problem, because even when we did see Bellica run in a more core position, whether it be in mid lane or as an offlaner, her ultimate, you don't pick up Bellica for the Neural Disruptor, right? Like, she's one of those heroes where her ultimate isn't really the big threat of her kit. It's more so her Void Drone, her stun potential, and that harassment potential of the Void Bomb. So the Neural Disruptor is more so just a little icing on the cake that is the rest of her kit.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty true. Although Neural Disruptor is definitely great against certain heroes, maybe even the Countess here, if she starts to get low on mana, for doing some good damage in the fights. I still think it's a pretty strong skill. I think that maybe you don't pick up the Belka just for that ability. Like, she still has some good things other than that. But yeah, her kit definitely very strong, even without having to get that ultimate off every time.
Bronze in a little bit of trouble. Piercing Arrow is going to miss. If that landed, it might have been enough damage to get the first blood, but Survivor is going to swing and a miss and throw away what could have been an easy first blood. Over here in mid lane, Miso, Tired, and Suki have been going at it. Generally, this lane is otherwise untouched. The junglers and the offlaners haven't been rotating as much as I expected. So these guys are pretty much just respecting each other, getting last hits. As far as the warding goes, there's not much warding around the mid lane. There's more so warding going on in each respective side of the strong jungle here for each team. I'm a little bit surprised by that. We do see Cosby standing by. He's going to pick up that black buff. Not much Grux can do with that as compared to a ranged hero. Maybe looking for some ganks in the jungle here. But I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more rotations and aggression coming out here from Arctic Wolves specifically. They've kind of just been sitting here farming and just keeping it even match thus far when it comes to the PvE.
Yeah, and I think that mainly comes from the fact that it's really difficult to be able to gank a Howitzer on the mid lane. He always has the landmine to push himself back, and when he gets up to level 5, he's going to have the Make It Rain as well in order to get away. So, like, the ganks from Phasma won't be all too great. Cosby hasn't really been getting too aggressive, and that's probably why we're not really seeing a whole lot of bloodshed here in the early game.
Green buff just spawned, and we do see Cosby as well as Suki hanging out. Suki is level 5, so has the Tesla Dome online. Miso Sneaky spotted out. Might be looking for the steal. Isn't going to be able to get it.
Right for
and
this.
is more than likely going to get taken out. Is the bleed enough? The black buff did fall off, so he's barely going to be able to get away right there. I think Suki just didn't have quite enough mana to get off another sticky bomb. So they are able to get that successful invasion and pick up the green buff here. But now the rotation from Bronze Army. They have now shown up. Miso boosted is in a lot of trouble here. Cosby had just enough mana for the smash and grab, but thankfully the rest of the team is here. Crazy Fool comes in here, level 5. Big explosion, and there's the Hoarfrost to make sure that Howitzer couldn't get himself out of there. That was a very back and forth, just a lot of rotations coming in and out. Reinforcements have arrived for both sides. That's going to be Arctic Wolves who strike first, getting the kill onto Miso Tired.
I was a little bit surprised that Bronze Army weren't able to secure something a little bit early. They had a great collapse in rotation, but I guess they just don't really have the damage at this point in the game to take anybody down. Like, the Grux just ran in, but there was nobody who could kill him. So, I mean, I think that he was in a really bad position where there was Suki being forced to back up, but with a great rotation in from Crazy Fool, they at least managed to secure themselves what was actually a pretty late first blood at 6 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, Miso Tired rotated over there very, very early in that engagement. Not level 5 yet, so just talking about the levels there, I think is the biggest reason why that exchange was went over to Arctic Wolves, because if Howitzer had his ultimate, he might have been able to get away from that gank or supplied a little bit of zoning for his Murdoch earlier, but not the case. So just overall more efficiency on the map, yielding level 5 quicker than your opponent, and Arctic Wolves was able to capitalize on that. Not the biggest yield of card experience in the world, but that's definitely going to give you a good moral boost. Bronze is my favorite color, is now level 5, so Countess is one of those heroes in the off lane, similar to that of heroes like Greystone, where you can't do much of anything in that lane until you're level 5, but once you hit level 5, regardless of your farm, you become a massive threat, as well as Misoji boosted. He's going to be level 5 here in just a couple minutes as well, so that pick-off strength of their draft is about to come online here, but not if Bronze, my favorite color, is going to get caught out. Thunk is on cooldown, but if they can land one more Thunk, might be able to secure the kill. Bronze is going to try to use the slip to get away, and they're not going to follow up. Miso Sneaky is actually going to rotate over here and try to punish Phasma for his overextension. The tether is going to land, and that's going to be the death of him. Actually using the ultimate there on Kwong to secure the kill. So Arctic Wolves pick up yet another kill. Phasma, only level 3, 8.5 minutes into the game. Don't get me wrong, he's a support. But Narbash really wants to get that Thunk cooldown lowered and get his ultimate online as quickly as he can. So if he continues, that's sort of the problem that one can have with rotation-heavy playstyle. If you don't get those kills, you're going to find yourself under-leveled very, very quickly. Smash and Grab should be able to secure this kill. That's exactly what's going to be happening. So Arctic Wolves are taking that early game advantage that I wanted them to do here. And I want to see a little bit more objective control coming in here. Countess going into Sparrow, not going to be able to pick up the kill. Did use the Feast in order to try to get it, but Sparrow needs a little bit more follow-up from that. And now Phasma's here. should be able to slip away there, and she is going to be able to get away. So these guys continue to just try to get kills. Countess isn't that strong yet. She
meanwhile,
hits
other
a power
side,
spike at
Castle
level
Dome.
5, but not there. And
they pick
there
up
you
two
go,
kills,
2 kills. Yeah, that was just crazy fooling Suki, hitting the R button and getting kills, man. That's
Yeah.
about as easy as you can get.
Press R, get kills. Suki looking like he's actually pretty good as a caster here, or I don't know. Lots of other MOBAs call them mage. You trick me a little bit every time people say that they're a caster, but because that's what I am. I'm a caster, right? Maybe they should add me to the game instead of having Gadget. But
I can see that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty good.
It's a hero with like 8 microphones.
Oh yeah, lots of monitors too. You just blind people. But Suki's doing really well here. He's, I mean, obviously lasting is a pretty big part of this game. You can last it as a ranger. You can last it as a mid laner, and you know, in this type of game, I would say that there's just a little bit more priority placed on getting the caster to be effective here. So we'll have to see how it works out. Meanwhile, there's a fight at right.
They were looking for a gank on Crazy Full, but it came in Cosby looking to get a turnaround kill, taking a couple of pot shots from the tower, as well as that Void Drone, man. It's so effective at zone control. If you're fighting into that Void Drone, you're going to find yourself out of mana and not able to use your abilities. So nothing's going to come from it, but that fight could have gone the other way if that Void Drone was on cooldown or not nearly as effective as it was before. Survivor, I think, has to play a little bit carefully here, as Feast is online for Countess.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to use the ultimate. He's going to be able to get the kill. Actually, no. The little bit overzealous is the Countess, and he gets taken out. The long arm of the law was used to try to get a reprisal, but Survivor was able to dodge that one. So that's one way to get farm on your Sparrow right there.
Yeah, that's just called Survivor styling on top of the Countess. Like, she had to go a little bit aggressive for it, but the thing is, her levels aren't really all that high right now, and Survivor was just able to survive through it, get the shots that I needed onto the Countess. He hits those and also avoid the long arm of the law from the backside, which I think came a little bit late. Generally, you want to try to hit the long arm of the law while the feast is still going.
Agreed, because it has that about 0.5-second stun, so it keeps him right in place, no possibility. So I think a little bit better of communication and shot calling right there could have yielded him that kill and also avoided it going down. But you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and that's just not what you want to be seeing there, and should enable them to push down this tier 1 tower. Countess now arriving, but with the siege minion in this wave, and Sparrow having now those double wind carver blades both maxed out with those minor strikes, which is pretty much the standard build we expect to see out of her. They're going to be able to pick up that tower over. And now we're going to see where are they going to rotate here? Are they going to start putting more emphasis into invasions inside of the jungle? Are they going to continue to play business as usual? Phasma is going to get knocked out of the tower by the landmine. Will be able to get away. No follow-up. Miso Tired's more than likely just going to have to get out of this lane. And actually, Miso Sneaky's in a lot of trouble. Diving pretty much inside of the tier 2 tower, invading the weak side of the jungle. And this is what we wanted to see in the draft, and that's exactly what they're doing here, Pip.
Yeah, they're being super aggressive here, and I like this play from them. They're able to... Oh, actually, looking for bronze is my favorite color as well.
He's got to be careful. He went in by himself. Miso Snar's going to try to contribute anything and everything. Long arm of the law does line up, but unfortunately, not going to be the case. So, discombobulated is a word that is coming to mind right here from Vaughn's army. They've had potential for fights to go down if the rotations were a little bit quicker, but Arctic Wolves have been quicker than them and have been really just running away with this early game. If they can continue to do this and they can get an inhibitor between that 20 and 30-minute mark, I think that's really going to put that is the goal they're looking for. But again, you can't discount the late-game viability of Bronze Army's draft. So I think Arctic Wolves they set out a game plan for early game emphasis, and they're executing it very, very well thus far.
Yeah, and teams like this absolutely have to be able to do that. Taking a look at Bronze Army, sure they can scale into the late game, but they're pretty far behind right now. So they do need to be able to find a way to get back into this one. Also, going back to that last fight where we were talking about rotations from Arctic Wolves, they went towards the Raptor Pit, which, you know, having the ultimate up on Sparrow would be actually pretty easy for them to get in addition to the green buff on Cosby. But I like how they just go right past it, and they look for a couple kills, though. They realize that the play near the Raptors could be a little bit strong from Bronze Army, and they don't put themselves in that situation, just getting a couple of great kills.
Yeah. And taking a look at the numbers here for the first time in the match at the 13-minute mark, we do see, as expected, a significant lead in the kills has yielded them a significant economical lead. Both Survivor at Suki at 20 points. You compare that over to Miso Jaboosted and Miso Sneaky only at 16 and 14 right there. Bellica, I'm pretty sure, is just bugged out on my screen here. Yeah, it's definitely a bug on my screen. Actually, can't even see Bellica right now. But
Bellica.
maybe she DC'd. It might be a disconnect. Not entirely sure.
Do you want to go back 10 seconds and forward 10 seconds just to try to fix it? Yeah,
let's go ahead. Yeah, let's see if we can figure that out real quick.
We do have a fight possibly at Raptors. Before we do that, though, Phasma
they're looking for it.
Yeah,
they're going in there using the ultimate. Phasma's going to take the long arm of the law as well as the feast. So there is the execution we wanted to see between the long arm of the law and the burst damage potential of Bronze Army. Cosby's going to go in with not much help. He is going to be able to pick up the Quangale now. Survivor as well as Crazy Fuller here, and that's going to be that's a dead Countess. So 2 for 2. I didn't see who the Raptors went to right there.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we just go back and forward 10 seconds real quick just to fix that issue if you haven't already?
Let's do it. I'm doing it now. Boom.
All right.
Boom.
I'll tell you when I hit 15 minutes in case you are out of sync. 15 minutes now. Was that good?
I'm about 2 seconds behind you. I'm at 15 now.
All right, so that's like 4 seconds. Can you get to 15:30? Yeah. I'll just tell you when that is. Apologies for that, guys. Just trying to work with the game as much as possible here. It is really difficult sometimes in the state that the game is in, so we're just going to try to work with what we have so we can try to fix these issues as fast as possible. And I just keep seeing Cosby dying, which is a bit unfortunate for him. But 30 seconds in 4, 3, 2, 1, 15:30.
Got it.
Be good.
Cool.
Awesome. So we're right back on, guys. Apologies for that once again, but we got the game afoot. Man.
We do. So now that Bellica's back into the field, Tier 1 tower is getting pushed down. It's going to fall. Pretty expected here at the 15-minute mark. But Phasma and Suki are trying to zone out Miso. Sneaky gets the tether. Or Frost, and that's going to be the Tesla Dome securing the kill as well, the knockout. And that's just a pretty straightforward kill right there. As Kamikaze, he tried. He tried. But that many deaths for a Tier 1 tower, I feel like Bronze Army is just feeling desperate right now to get anything going to the point where they're sacrificing a great deal. This is a very, very early Orb Prime. But I like it. I like this snap decision to do this. They know they have a massive advantage right now. And again, it's all about playing off that early game strength of the composition. That's exactly what they're going to do here. And I won't be surprised. This may snowball not only into a Tier 2 restricting those jump pads, but a team fight that went the way of the one we just saw could absolutely be an inhibitor here if they play their cards right. Their prime cards right, if you will.
Yeah, their prime cards. There you go. Inhibitor, if not game as well. Like with that prime buff, with already a pretty big advantage for Arctic Wolves, they can push in on Bronze Army pretty well and take a big fight. And honestly, losing a fight at this point for Bronze Army, even though the respawn timers are somewhat low, it's still going to result in the core probably going down. So Bronze Army on a very thin razor edge here, and it's going to be really difficult for them to try to survive. Also, in that last fight, you just talked about how squishy most of the heroes on Bronze Army are, and you kind of saw it in that last fight. It didn't really take a whole lot, just the Tesla Dome into Crash Bang Boom from Narbash, and then most of those heroes were already dead, so it's just really difficult for them to survive right now. And look at this aggressive crowd from Crazy Fool, but it's actually going to get disrupted there.
He's going to be okay. He's going to be just fine there. Real quick, what time are you at, Piff, right now?
17:40. I'm getting a little bit of frame things.
Okay, cool. So I'm only like a second behind you. Cool. Just making sure. Down the left lane here, they are pushing with the Orb Prime. Tier 2 tower is going to fall. Jump pads are down, as I like to say. Jump pads die. Just surrender at that point, right? The point of the game is over. And Miso Tower is going to be forced out to use it. Feast is used on Survivor, but he's all but himself right here. He is able to get that kill, followed up with Miso Sneaky. So they take down the priority hero of Sparrow, and that's going to take the wind out of their sails. So I feel like they aren't going to be able to push this. They're going to disagree with me, though. Cosme and Phasma here. Suki in the sideline as well. Crazy Fool is rotating from mid lane. This is a 4v5 without their carry. This is a very, very confident power play right here. And they're just going in the fight. Oh, my Lord. The big damage coming down right there. The Tesla Dome is isolating them, and they're just getting torn apart. Cosby went right in there and smash and grab 2 of them. The damage coming out. The CC from Aurora is simply too much. Soja Boost is going to use that long arm with the Lava to no avail. Suki's going to clean him up just fine. And man, it's not very often you see a team go in 4v5 without their carry and take a fight as that one-sided. Sure, Suki gets taken out, but that's more so just because he was looking for a little bit of style of a kill onto the Murdoch. But just like that, 18 minutes in, this is what we expected to see. Arctic Wolves are living up to the expectations and then some. It's not that common that you see an inhibitor go down that early, Pith.
Yeah, that is just what the Prime buff gives you. And also, Suki, well, he may not be playing the Ranger this match. Survivor ended up dying there pretty early, but I guess someone told Suki that he's still got to carry this team, so he actually took a triple kill out of that last fight and took heroes rather low. The only reason that he wasn't able to get more was the rest of his team kind of had to just back up, and he was out of mana as well. So Suki just still going ham. Doesn't really matter what position he's on. He's still doing extremely well, and Bronze Army cannot really handle his hotness here.
If you actually look at the cards here, Pith, you see a purity sensor on the Kwang, of all people, over for Bronze Army, not on the Bellica. I'd imagine that's just related to Bellica's not getting much farm, but when you play a Bellica in that support role, that's what you're going to expect to see. But I don't know if that's ideal, to be honest, having that purity sensor on Kwang. Because, I mean, that's essentially 8 points of damage that you're losing on a very important hero that you're looking to do damage. For that. Much better off on that Bellica, but I think it's more so of a we're behind, we need that purity sensor, and we need it right now. Crazy Fool is just able to go into the strong side of the jungle, clean up that green buff, and essentially steal it from their opponent. The amount of map control that they have allows those sort of plays, and as long as they're able to continue to dictate the flow of this match, I feel like it's Arctic Wolves all day, every day here. Hunter's Guile has been picked up for survival. That's pretty much a standard card now on Sparrow. Sometimes you even see the Hunter's Guile as well as your support still picking up a purity sensor. And this is sort of one of the big snowball factors inside of this current game right now. Obviously, that big game, the big patch is coming this Monday. But once your carry gets to a certain point ahead of the opponent's carry where they can just farm the Raptors without any assistance, then all of a sudden you see a massive spike in card experience, specifically here on Survivor. They have the map control. They have the Sparrow's ability to farm that Raptors. And right now, as long as they keep these lanes pushed in, it's just going to be business as usual and an easy game moving on to the group stage. But again, I mean, with the late game strength of Bronze Army, they're down such economically that I'm not sure what they can do here. This mid lane push is what's going to boil down to, Pith. We'll see how this goes as the Siege minion is advancing in. It's only 2 minions. Wave clear is a plenty on the side of them, especially with that Countess, but still, they have to be dealing with the other side. Cosby goes in, he gets stunned up, but Miso Sneaky still in a lot of trouble. Cosby is going to be able to finish the kill. The Smasher Grab actually avoided. Well done, long arm of the law. More so not sure if it's the most effective thing in the world right there. Crazy Fool gets knocked into the Make It Rain. Beautiful play right there from Miso Tired to knock him back into the last barrage of Make It Rain to secure the kill. And this is what they really, really needed to get themselves back into this game. Not only do they need those 2 kills for the economical aspect of it, but more so they need to push out these lanes and get some map control. Even if they do get map control, there's not much for them to do though, Pith.
Yeah, even with that last team fight win, it's still really difficult for Bronze Army to do a whole lot here. They're just at the point in the game where it's very difficult for them to see anything on the map. They are doing a really good job of getting some words out. They see a little bit of their jungle, a little bit of the weak side jungle, but when that prime respawns, we're going to see an Arctic Wolf side that are just a little bit further ahead than last time. They're going to have a prime buff on their side once again, and I don't think they're going to make another bad decision to just go right in for the kills underneath the tower. I think they're going to play a little bit more like what we saw in the last one, where they have Aurora already on the left side, going for just making sure the creep wave is pushed in, and then trying to initiate off of that one. They were a little bit slow to rotate this time. I don't think they'll be so slow next time.
We'll have to see. Miso Sneaky finally having an advantage to get inside of his jungle. They really need to clear those wards out. As I imagine that's what they're going to be doing here in just a minute. They know they need map control and vision control of their jungle if they want any hope of getting themselves back into this match here. So 4 wards dedicated to just the strong side. There could have been maybe a little bit better allocation of resources, putting those wards around Orb Prime, which is going to be spawning here in a minute, putting them around the Raptors, which is going to be spawning here in about another 2 or 3 minutes as well. But even with that sort of botched push, you could tell that they were that Arctic Wolves were looking to divide and conquer with the split push of the left lane as well as putting pressure into the mid lane. But Cosby, essentially what happened there is a smash and grab got interrupted by the seismic assault of Bellica, and he wasn't able, they had to put much more resources into securing the kill than they wanted to, and that essentially allowed them to win that last fight, even though it still wasn't a massive victory. Small little victories like that can really help bring you back morale-wise. Very, very important. But, I mean, just taking a look at the numbers, though, morale can only do so much, as Survivor is at 43 card points with Miso boosted at 29. So you can have all the confidence in the world, but when you're taking a look with such a large discrepancy of numbers between the carries and the teams as a whole, it's a very, very dismal forecast right here.
Yeah, it's dismal. The map control completely belongs to Arctic Wolves, and with this Prime about to spawn, they're going to be able to push these lanes in quite a bit. It's going to require actually a pretty big misplay in order for Bronze Army to stay in this one, and they try to look for anything they can right now with the rotation over to the right side.
So you have to go there looking for a fight, trying to force the engagement. But Crazy Fool just goes right in there, uses the Cryosystem, catches him in the Hoarfrost as well. The follow-up isn't there, but Miso Sneaky was taken out before, and that was just great. Crazy Fool essentially just kept them and zoned them out. And this is simply the cleanup coming here from Arctic Wolves. And that's going to be a full team wipe right there. Crazy Fool is going to get taken out by the Countess, but at this point, he's done his job. And more than likely, I would imagine they can just push down that left lane. The lane's already pushing. They really want to get this Countess. Countess is surviving much longer than I ever expected.
Just a little.
Yeah. Survivor on Sparrow is already going over to the core with the wave pushing. And with all of them being down here, that should be GG right here. And the Arctic Wolves, they had that early game strength. They played to it. And they pretty much just executed on all fronts, yielding the victory here in this game, Pith.
Yeah, Arctic Wolves putting on a good show in the first round of this group stage, and they do have a little bit of a long journey ahead of themselves here, but they have a pretty good showing against Bronze Army, and we'll have to see what they're able to do further on in the tournament.
With that being said, though, of course, guys, Bronze Army are going to be going down to the loser side of the group stage, so they still have an ability to get to day number 2 into the semifinals, so it won't be the last that we see of them there. Arctic Wolves is a team, every time we cast them, we always say the same thing, that they always look a little bit better every single time we casted them, with lulls in between that, maybe for a month or two when the game was in a much different state, to put it lightly. And with this new roster change, I'm being informed that Suki being on this roster is more of a sub because Shirk is having some PC problems. But Shirk is a very talented player as well. Whether that's Shirk or whether that's Suki, I think this lineup is going to be one that might actually yield them that success that they have been striving for so very long, and that is getting into a finals or even taking an event. So I'm very excited to see how they perform continuously throughout this weekend. But we're just going to have to see what their matchup is going to be here, guys. Don't forget you can support these teams. Head over to that Matcherino using the command !Matcherino. And at chat, anything you guys are willing to do for these guys is just the generosity that the community always brings to our events and other community events is just it's something to behold. And I'm very glad for anything and everything. They are very glad for anything and everything that you guys are willing to do. But Pith, thoughts about that game? I mean, there's really not much to be said other than Arctic Wolves just won the battle on every front.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Arctic Wolves, they're a team that have shown us a lot of good things in the past PCL NA. I think they just need to get that one last little piece in there, and maybe with Suki in it, they're going to have a good showing today. Again, unfortunate that Shirk was having problems with his account and couldn't join us for this game, but they're looking really good with him on the lineup, and I'm interested to see if they actually do have that piece of the puzzle that was just kind of missing before. They've had a lot of great games. They showed us some amazing plays, but haven't really been able to just finish off that puzzle.
Well, guys, we're going to get into the next game here in just a minute, so we're going to cut to a small break. Don't forget, head over to Twitter, use the hashtag PCL, and join the conversation. Tell us what you think about that last match. Tell us what you think about Suki being on that gadget, something we don't see him. He performed as we expected, just not on a hero we normally see. I'm Shane Lynch, that's Pithy, and we're going to take a small break. Guys, stay tuned for the next matchup here on Paragon Competitive League, and we'll see you in just a minute.